Hi and welcome everyone. Here's Matt. This is the reading of chapter 4, subchapter 5 in the book Orgasmic Blueprint, Tools for Pleasure, Desire and Consent for Individuals, Couples and Intimacy Professionals. The last readings, well, you just find that in the videos. Anyway, today we talk about the communication map, and you find as well the video description about communication of the map from the book in the description of the video. Let's get into it. Communication, bridging the gap. Good communication is the bridge between confusion and clarity. It's a quote from Nat Turner. The three basic levels of communication. They have been really saving my butt in many ways. The first level of communication, the informational level, is an exchange of information. We do most of the time, it includes all the facts of daily life in the past, present and future. What happened, is happening and will happen, to whom, when, where, and so on. Examples. He caught the train at 6 p.m. She called me after dinner. I saw the fox in the garden today. Can you pass the salt? I visit you at the weekend. I send them an email. He got the job. This is how the app works. They're having a party on Saturday. The government introduced a new law. Makes sense, right? Number one, information level. Number two, the feeling level or the personal level, an exchange of feelings. This is the personal level, and it's about saying how you feel and what you notice about yourself. So when we communicate at the personal level, we express how we feel while the listener listens. Examples are, that makes me feel amused, connected, lucky, sad. It made me smile, I'm excited, annoyed, bored, feel unsettled. I have butterflies in my stomach because I'm nervous. I felt a pang of envy. The feeling level. The third is the relational level, an exchange of empathy. This is the level of communication which connects and forms intimacy. You talk about how you feel to tell the other how you feel. You talk about how it feels to tell the other how you feel. So what you notice between you both and how it is to have deeper interactions with each other. Examples. I feel connected when you say that, and that feels cozy and familiar. It feels uplifting sharing with you. I feel nervous expressing that to you. I feel vulnerable sharing that part of myself. I feel you, I hear you, I can relate to that. I feel worried, concerned, helpless hearing that. I imagine you feel anxious, is that right? Usually people have a tendency to try to fix a problem or give advice. And this is neither the personal nor the relational level. It's purely the informational level. Apex and shadow dynamics within the informational level. I'd like to point out an exception on the engagement system structure, which may, on the surface, seems like a shadow strategy of control and expectations. Usually, we'd ask for something we want, and the other would reply while considering their limits. However, where the time factor would either save or lose lives, such as in medical, fire, or other emergency situations, we see a necessary chain of commands. In this case, the language often used includes demand or orders, and we all know that a surgeon or firefighter isn't going to waste precious time asking each individual co-worker whether their request is within the other person's limits. Makes sense. The bigger picture allows us to see that these demands aren't for the personal benefits of the speaker. They come from a place of care and necessity. Still learning reading in English. The people taking action in response to these demands will either have agreed to do so in advance, acknowledging them as part of their duty, or be acting as willingness to help in whichever emergency situation they find themselves in. And that's all well and good. However, the same patterns of communication would feel like a shadow in a personal relationship. Difficulties arise when people get stuck in this hierarchical level of communication which is clear line of information. So when they take it away from a work scenario and into their daily lives, this can result in difficulties relating on a more personal level. In these cases, the type of dynamics that might come up are difficulties communicating on deeper level, expressing and hearing feelings. Inability to emphasize with others who feel threatened by a demanding tone. Lack of empathy for everyone having difficulties expressing their limits. Arrogance, believing they are better, more important or evolved than others. Domineering shadow tendency or inflated ego. As you can see, the informational level of communication can be a parallel reality or of both care and at other times shadow. What is really life-saving and heroic in an emergency situation is in daily life unloving, uncaring and void of intimacy. People who work professionally in these situations need to train the ability to switch between being attentive to the demands of an emergency as well as fostering the ability to communicate at a personal and relational level. So the communication map. The communication map shows that when we are in survival mode and relating on shadow strategies, dwelling in the basement, we communicate in a substandard way. We don't clearly relate with the other person, but instead give hints, orders, and commands. We dictate, coerce, push, manipulate, or use should or have to statements. And that comes from power over, oppression, and from taking the child's responsibility. So you have to go back to find that again. So if we look at the symbol, the shadow domain is seen in the first upper curve and represents lower level of consciousness. The base is the foundation of the pyramid structure, and it represents in the symbol as the second lower curve. Here we take responsibility for self-care, for our limits and boundaries, for saying no and not allowing shadow communication to happen. If someone, for example, begins trying to manipulate us, we stop them immediately. And the base is also where communicate boundaries and limits, where we say, this is how far you can go and no further. The communication map. Now it's really visible. I like that. So it's possible to see. Okay. So again, you find the video in the description. The link is there, and watch it and come back. Next on the communication maps are the engagement zones, and this part between the base and the apex is pretty much limited to either making a request or an offer. If we want to lift up from the base, we have to own our desires and be capable of requesting what we want. When you have conscious communication between two consenting adults who take high responsibility for their conversation and connections, each is capable of knowing, if I want you to do something for me or to me, I have to ask you first and respect your limits. Obvious. Therefore, if I ask you to do something beyond the limits you've voiced and we've made an agreement on, and I'm not respecting your limits or taking responsibility for my desire. Of course, I could try and get my needs met by hanging out in the shadow realms of hinting or using manipulation, but again, this would be taking the responsibility of a child. If we look at the engagement zones within the communication map, you can see that the giver either makes an offer or a request. Wrapping up your request in the this word, of an offer. Often we don't voice our desires due to vulnerability of showing ourselves and the risk of rejection. Instead, we wrap up our request in the goose, this word, I don't know why I choose that one, of an offer. When we avoid making a request, we often offer things that we would like to receive, or in the hope of receiving something back. Every offer with a hidden agenda is due to a request being avoided. And what the receiver does with the gift of an offer is, of course, their choice. So if you feel disappointed when the receiver doesn't want what you offer, it's a good indicator that you actually have an agenda, an attachment to a specific outcome, an expectation, usually to get something back in return. What you want back might not be obvious to you, and we often give to receive appreciation, acknowledgement for our thoughtfulness, time and effort, or to be accepted and loved. Whether done consciously or unconsciously, this belongs to the shadow and can feel like manipulation. A few years ago, I was invited to Hong Kong to teach consent on a somatic level. Here, a large part of the culture is built on giving to get. To me, it appeared that the bigger the gift, the higher the level of expectation was, to figure out what the giver wanted back. While there a few people became offended when they gave me a gift and I didn't ask what they wanted in return. That was awkward. During the workshop, it was difficult for most people to experience the direct route of sensory inflow through the waking up the hands exercise. So when it dropped in and people started to feel for themselves, the entire dynamic of going into action to get something for themselves went out of the window. They become stuck again when I invited them to place their hand on somebody else. Here, most lapse back into the belief that their action had to be for the other and that the other had to do something in return for them. Recognizing boundaries and expressing limits was difficult for all. Even when something wasn't pleasant, they felt they had to pretend to like it, to avoid shaming the other person. The cultural belief was embedded so deeply, it took a whole day of returning to the inflow exercise of feeling an object with the hands before some ahas began to take place. So when we clean up our offers, it's like a quantum shift. How do you make that shift? First of all, while learning to master this new approach, stop giving and drop into your receiving role. Ask for what it is that you really want, and you'll never have to put a hidden agenda in or in an offer again. You get your needs met when you ask directly for whatever your desire is. By knowing that communicating your needs is achieved through a request, you know how to do so by asking. Can you do this for myself? Or can I do this for myself? Or can you do this for me? So this level of communication literally allows us to shift to a higher level of conscious awareness. Making an offer is giving a gift. Not an offer, an offer. When an offer is made, it's done from a higher state of consciousness towards the altruistic state at the apex. So we offer to gift something that someone else needs or wants. We give something because we have it and we can. An example such as, would you like me to give you a massage? Is only a genuine gift if given freely without attachment to the offer being accepted or getting something in return. Reciprocity is not a necessity in making an offer. Some cultures see this differently, such as the Chinese culture, but again, this is a cultural construct. Personally, if I lack energy or I'm feeling burned out, I don't offer anything to anyone because I have to focus on my own self-care. However, if my batteries are charged and I have no present needs or desires, I ask, what would you like? Is there anything that I can do for you? This is specifically important when it comes to work. Would I offer my skills and gift if I didn't like what I do? I would only do this if I desperately need to survive. Otherwise, I wouldn't be offering something from an empowered place, but from a suppressed survival mechanism. Offers and request in the 3-minute game. By embodying the dynamics of offers and requests in the 3-minute game, how good communication works becomes very transparent. Due to our increased awareness of receiving and giving, you can hear when you or others aren't communicating clearly. You notice when you're not clearly expressing what your desire is and instead making an offer, motivated by getting something that you want. So you notice when you're being manipulative to get a certain response or reaction. And when you notice, you have the opportunity to ask yourself, wait a moment, what is it that I haven't asked for that I actually want? Getting clear on how communicative, getting clear on how to Communicate, therefore, consciously unravels layers of self. It increases awareness and self-discovery. At the roots of the 3-minute game, at its roots, the interesting thing is reading the book loud, what I haven't done to anybody yet, shows me that it's a complete different dynamic of writing a book, dictating a book, reading a book. So there is a second edition in the pipeline, and so there are definitely a few changes. This is still the first edition I'm reading from. Anyway, and writing a book doesn't mean that you can read a book. At its roots, the 3-minute game is an offer game. We offer by asking, what do you want to do to me for 3 minutes? And what do you want me to do to you for 3 minutes? We play within the engagement zones by making offers and requests where one wants and the other is willing to. Therefore, for play to happen at all, both have to want it. And so by asking someone to play, it is also an invitation. Person A, I'd like to play a game. Would you like to play too? Person B, that sounds fun. It could be nice. What's the game about? Person A explains the rules. Person B decides whether they want to join you in the game. Yes, please. No, thanks. Maybe another time. The language itself is really transparent. And so when I ask for what I want, you can say no to the entire thing, but I'm still able to express and own my desire. And this is very empowering in itself. With this or any power comes the responsibility to function from an interpersonal space rather than manipulating or taking advantage of the other through shadow engagement. There is responsibility to give the gift of our own power to others so that they can find their own desires. When we do this, it becomes a very transformative experience. A little bit of self. I'm so excited to take a moment and share with you my de-armoring and sexual empowerment coaching certification. This program has been around for almost 10 years and is my highest offering. Sexual wellness is forecasted to be a $125 billion industry by 2026. Why? Because Tantra is booming like yoga 20 years ago, and people are more ready than ever to express their sexuality, build deeply connected relationships, and have the most outrageous orgasms and erotic experience of their lives. However, most people are never taught how to do any of this, how to have extraordinary relationships and the sex that they really crave. They're looking for qualified, confident professionals to teach them. So my de-armoring and sexual empowerment coaching certification is a powerful 1-year professional program that helps many coaches become incredibly successful and highly paid professionals. This program doesn't just train you in every aspect of the coaching process so that you can build a successful online business. This coaching also walks you through the personal transformation of a lifetime, because the best coaches have done their work themselves. And on top, I show you all the tech secrets how to create a thriving online business. But first and foremost, you'll discover transformative techniques like the empowerment tools, meditation practices, and pleasuring pathway that you'll apply to your own life first. Then you use all the same proven tools and techniques to get laser-focused results for your clients. We also hold an exclusive de-armoring training just for our coaching students and alumni every year. In this training, you'll experience a 10-day of live teaching with other teachers and me, refining your skills as a de-armoring and sexual empowerment coach. So, if you feel the call to claim your spot in this multi-billion-dollar industry and transform not only your own life, but the life of many others around the world, get on the waiting list now at somaticarrows.com/empowerment coaching, and I love to see you there and welcome you. Welcome back. Invitation happens at the apex. At the base, there's a level of communication where you're able of saying no, keeping your boundaries clear and taking responsibility for your own self-care. The engagement zones are where we make requests, offer, ask for permission, and come to agreements. Invitation happens at the apex, where we come from the interpersonal space, where it's all about what both want. When one wants something and the other feels a pull towards it too. Both act without agenda or attachment to outcome. Both are in a state of flow. It's less about making offers or requests and more about invitation from a higher level of consciousness. The apex is an altruistic space of love and care where we offer support, feel and show empathy and compassion and are empowered in co-creating from a mutual benefit. It's a playful space of conscious communication, intimate connection, safety, friendship, relating, love-making, listening to hear, authentic responding, and body language. So when both lovers have activated the direct route, they can follow their impulses and be more fluid in their movements with one another. A good example of authentic communication through body language is contact improvisation dancing. For those who have never experienced this, it's a kind of meditative dance. Although it's good to know how to support others safely, there are no pre-learned steps. The mind doesn't direct the body. Sometimes there's accompanying music and sometimes silence. The idea is that dancers tune into their bodies and move spontaneously and intuitively according to the genuine way their bodies wish to move. While in contact with another person or people, when people dance in such an embodied way, each moment of contact holds a clear signal. It can feel as though your body can't read the other's energy. The dancers tune into the feel of the other, supporting and allowing themselves to be supported, flowing with the natural pull of their body's impulses. It's clear when someone doesn't really connect, if they are only tuned into themselves and push without feeling your signals, intent on domination and power over. It's also clear when there's a lack of resistance, when someone can't meet you in an empowered way, allowing themselves to be pushed around. And these interactions feel very different from the playful push and pull of authentic connection. The speed of movement differs. Sometimes a spontaneous stillness occurs. Movement and connection have many flavors depending on who you dance with and how both feel in the moment. It can feel fast, lively, playful, funny, slow, sensual, intimate, edgy, freeing, exhilarating, grounding, peaceful, and more. Due to the ease, grace, and beauty of these natural movements, an onlooker may be mistaken in pre-assuming they are choreographed and rehearsed. Communicating an invitation. The most important conversation at the apex is communicating what is that you want and what is it that you want as an invitation. I want something here. What do you want? I want this. Do you want this too? What would you like? I would like this. And you? What do you desire right now? Well, I'd just like to do this. Can we find a middle ground where we both get our needs met? Something like that as in conversation, an invitation. Communicating at the apex is about finding a winning situation and isn't about compromise at all. Here, winning happens for all involved, so a win-win. When you create an invitation and agree on what both parties want. And this, of course, isn't always easy to find and can require a high level of investigation. In radical responsibility to you have to ask the right question, the 3 powers, to find out what's important to the other person. You stay in relationships, owing your own desire while being capable of investigating someone else's world. I'm highly motivated to work with people in this win-win exchange. While working on the Somatic Consent Engagement course content, apps, website, marketing, translation, and this book, I invited people to build structures with me that they are good at and like to do. And these skills exchanges are paid and are also about mutual learning, sharing, and growth. I couldn't have done all this work without others who were interested in invested in and benefit from the content of the Somatic Consent Engagement System structure. Due to this openness of idea and experience exchange where all parties are encouraged to express their truth, this project continues to result in an upward spiral that touches and enriches hearts and lives from a joyful place of invitation. So being at the apex doesn't mean that life will be happily ever after. So if we look at the ascending and descending arrows of the communication map that you have to look here in the video, they show an upward and downwards possibility of movement from the base to the apex and vice versa. It's clear that when we constantly engage with new people in new situations and environments, we will have to establish our base again and again. The more we practice, the more fluent we become in this dynamics. So when you begin to master the Somatic Consent Engagement System, it becomes crystal clear if there is no functioning agreements. So you know when you haven't clearly or appropriately communicated. So when you are guessing and are in the shadow of taking your assumption for granted. So with practice, you know when something doesn't quite sit right and you need a conversation. So when shadow emerges or something hasn't been properly communicated, there's a continual up and down process of relating from the basement of shadows through the engagement zones to the apex and back. And this way you find out what's going on and where you both are, the desire and limits of both in any given situation, so that you are able to re-establish connection. Thank you for today. That was the chapter on communication. Please like and subscribe if you haven't done that you just get a notification when I'm reading live the next time. You might think that my reading totally sucks and you don't want to listen and rather read it yourself. So you get the link for the hard copy and the paperback on Amazon in the video description. And when you follow the link to my webpage, you get it as EPUB and as a PDF. You can download that and share that with as many people as you like during this book reading time. There are a few more chapters to go. And it's on 50% special at the moment. So please feel free to do that. Thank you so much again for hanging in with me and following that reading. If you here at this point, we're finishing the chapter 4 about relating pretty soon, and then we're going into the professional dynamics for facilitators and practitioners. But before that, we talk about one of my favorite themes, and that's sexuality and how the system fits in there. All right. Have a beautiful day. Thanks for being here, and enjoy and love yourself.